So I went to take a look at this site today because from the air and aerial photos, these woodlands here are the thing that kind of distract or sort of decoy you from being interested in looking at this, particularly when you're looking at it on Google Maps or from ground level up at the Highland or other areas. And obviously with the trees round it, you can't really see the flat top of it, or that it's really that interesting unless you're kind of looking for it. And then with these there, I mean that's the old aerial photograph, and those trees are just off it, so it would have really stood out then when there weren't any houses round it. And why you'd think of building on top of it, I don't know, because it seems ridiculous. And what I've pointed out is, because that's so unique and interesting, it's got an amazing walk around in the woods anyway, and it would have had a nice view on top of it back then. If you were on top of it, even the trees do kind of spoil and obscure the view outwards, never mind looking at it, which is a shame. But that itself, to go for a walk in these woods, obviously there were a lot of places to go for a walk when they went to houses, that many houses, but why would you leave this here for a walk, and then there's a little bit just at the side there that's all greenery, for all these people to go for a greenery walking, when you can go in the woodland walk around that, and there's all this countryside anyway. So, you would build houses there. You won't build houses on the top of that. It doesn't make sense, and this is the 1771, before trains were invented, before major quarrying machinery or the current slag heap machinery and construction traffic. And there we have it there, look, very prominent. There it is, exactly there. And the university student in his dissertation has had this, followed the same lines of inquiry as me. Followed the same thought process as what I did. And then somebody in Facebook have said that it said Warriors, it's got a name, at least name Warriors Burial. I think it was, and I actually think it was clearly, it is clearly obvious when you look at the shape there and there. And it's just a distance from the river. And if you go to the river, the icy highway, it's not far from the river at all. In fact, it's actually a bit close. I think it's a bit closer to the river than what Castle Hill Fort is. So I've gone there on site today, and I'll edit that video onto here. You see, look at that distracting woodland there. You see, you've got that there. That's the site there, right? So that's the site, and then there's Castle Hill. But when you're looking at it from here, it just looks like there's some clumps of trees there, clumps of trees there. Clumps of trees there, clumps of trees there. You think, oh, what is that? Is that something? Then you look at that and you go, oh, no, it's just trees. So then you think, oh, yeah, well, that's just trees. But it's not. Definitely not in 1771 either. So I think that because that's, even if a university student in a dissertation investigating Castle Hill thinks that's significant and important, what happened to, why was it, after Valley excavated and there was a war, and then, quietly in the 1970s, they slipped houses on it? Why wouldn't they put those houses there? And then everyone from these houses can go onto it and have picnics on it, go walk in the woodlands round it, and then look out at the nice view. Although the view's not decent anymore because they've obliterated it with houses. Can you imagine if, you see, look at it then, this isn't even that long ago. Look at it, it could have been, had a certain amount of houses protected from round it. Why didn't they? You see, if this was Uffington Camp, right, or Maiden Castle or Old Oswestry, I mean, look, they're complaining now about Old Oswestry creeping towards it with houses, right? They've managed to keep it natural, and there's some brilliant forest views from Maiden Castle, some amazing forest views, right? There's town of Oswestry, the edge of it there. They managed to keep it away from it, but it's creeping nearer. They've got a bit of a hill there with some trees. You always seem to get a hill with some trees near Hill Fort, like at Uffington Camp, they've got Dragon Hill. Then Oswestry, they've got this. It's actually got a name, but I forgot it. I asked somebody the other day, right? So the thing is, and then there's Maiden Castle. Dorchester is, it's a town, city. I'm not too sure if it's classed as a city or not, but it's a happening place. It's a very beautiful place with old buildings. Huddersfield's lost its old pubs and buildings, got ripped down. It's not boring, Dorchester. It's not rubbish. It's not boring. It's not backward. It's a modern town, south of England, south coast. You can go to restaurants, you can go to theatres. They've got media places. They've got old little shop alleyways and very Victorian style, Dragon's Alley style, like you get on Harry Potter. Little places. Huddersfield haven't got any of that anymore. We did have. They ripped it all down. It's got, beautiful big churches and things like that. There's nothing wrong with Dorchester. The only thing, when I went there, okay, the McDonald's was a bit basic, but, they didn't have the most modern McDonald's drive-through, but so what? And then here's Maiden Castle. They haven't even thought about going, this is Dorchester, right? This is Dorchester, and that's it. And that's Maiden Castle. Boom. Massive. Iron Maiden, right? They were not even thinking about it. They weren't even entertain it. It's such an important site. So, what is it with Kirklees Council? We need to know who are the characters and look at, right, this is the exact same zoom now. The exact same zoom, trajectory, point of the compass and shape. Now look at that corner of Old Eswell Fort there with a point on it, right? Look at that point on there. Exactly the same direction as this. Exactly the same direction as that is facing. And I don't think that's a coincidence. If you watch Howard Crowhurst's Megalithic Portal with Hugh Newman, he talks about alignments. Perfect alignments these people have done over hundreds of miles from Carnac. Thousands of miles from Carnac to Castlerig to Rudstone to Orkney. Everything's aligned perfectly, right? They could do it over great distances. It's no coincidence. And if you want to see from the aerial view, right, there's the point side there. There's a point side, and it points the same. It's the same as Oswestry when you get the same angle from the air. That's the exact same angle, right? That's the trajectory and angle, right? And there is the old-fashioned photo, right? There's Oswestry. I did not change angle or direction or zoom in or out. I just scrolled across over Pennines, Macclesfield, over the villages. I found Wrexham, and then as soon as I got Wrexham, went down the A49, and there it is, and it's the exact same angle. So you don't tell me that's coincidence. And, these edges aren't that difficult to dig out. Somebody could have dug them out. I agree it's smaller. It's a smaller size. But this side of it here points in the same way. It's not coincidence. Now, I want to know, what is the problem with Kirklees Council? What issue do they have? What is this obsession and greed? And I bring it down to characters. Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart heading the Starship Enterprise, #1. Boom, massive university, bang, explosion of students, bang. Why? What is this passion and desire to ruin the area? He's swanning off to Stratford-on-Avon, having parties, going to posh parties in Stratford at Shakespeare's house. Yet the Horseshoe pub in Huddersfield was pulled down. All the old buildings pulled down. Why isn't Patrick Stewart protecting all the old buildings in Huddersfield? Trashed and destroyed. It's Barry Shearman. It's Barry Shearman. And I think Barry Shearman's something to do with Ian Bray not getting prosecuted. Barry Shearman has been pulling strings through political ties in courts and magistrates and his party affiliates. And I think that's why they ended up getting juries in when Ian Bray got protected. Because I think Barry Shearman has been protecting Ian Bray in his Extinction Rebellion actions. Or pulling strings to. It seems interesting to me, right? What is it with Barry Shearman, Sir Patrick Stewart, and Prince Andrew, who's actually been, prosecuted anyway or fined, and he's ended up paying out 12 million, right? Why is it? What is the problem with who are the persons on Kirklees Council who are obsessed with this need to spread out and build more? What are the builders in Dorchester doing? They're not. You just don't have too many builders. There's builders, right? Builders live in Dorchester, right? You have as many builders as you need. Why do we need more here? And in fact, on Doctor Who, they've got that in the new series 13 in Doctor Who. There's a main thread going through it, which is not enough, not enough, not enough. They're always wanting more and more. What is it? And it's the awards Kirklees are giving out. Award Darren Smith Builders. And then, if you don't put a planning notice out, if you don't do this, don't do that, you put a complaint in, it's impossible to get any action against him. We've got building going on behind us. No notices put out properly where nobody can see it. Under the sly, get down the road, only 800 signatures, blocks housing build. Other people have desperately been trying to block housing builds. They've done everything possible, got thousands of signatures. Stop it. What? There's something in our county. Why aren't our ancient sites, and particularly the fact that it's near the river, like Newgrange's got Noath and Newgrange and Noath are both near the river, which it's not right on the coast, it flows to the sea. Why is it that here, where we are, we've got Castle Hill, this one, and Dunelm, with a river flowing to the sea at the end of the Pennines? Why is it not venerated like Oswestry, Maiden Castle, and why is it not venerated like Uffington? Why do we need this? And putting people on top of it. Oh yeah, we've put you on top of there, but they can't see anything, and the view they're looking at is terrible. If you were going on a working class, right, then you at least put them on top of there and give them a nice view out and something to look at and a nice look at it. But it's not. And this year, it's the concealment, and with what's gone on up at the Blacksmith's Arms, blocking the view off from up there so you can't park and look at it. It just, to me, when there's something going on. You see, we found the right old Castle Hill looked pretty plain before the Victoria Tower was on it. This is an old photograph we found, and you can only just make out the top parts there. So that other hill might not have even needed to have any around it. So some of them don't. This is Shankton. That's Sisbury Ring Hill Fort there, which is actually, it's not that much different size from Maiden Castle. And then there's the Shanktonbury Ring one, which is only about 3.5-4 kilometres. So it's the same distance apart as these two sites that we're talking about at Huddersfield. So there is some. I'll put the video on now where I go to check the woodlands out. So I'll go and have a look at these woodlands. Sorry, not even getting mixed up again. There they are. Those ones there, which it's meant to look similar. When you look at it, it just looks like two clumps of trees. So I went to have a look at that to check it out, and it's just kind of like the hillside really with trees growing on it. So I'll edit that on to the end of this now on site. So there, the thing is, it clearly, obviously, it's the same. It's about the same height as Castle Hill is, and the same size. Why would you have a mound that's approximately the same dimensions as Castle Hill within 3.5 kilometres of it, and try and claim that it's got nothing to do with it? And that's not massively significant in the country when you've got two hill fort sites in close proximity. Then that makes them even more important because it's even more significant. And like in Worthing with Sisbury Ring and Shanktonbury Ring and Sisbury Ring, you clearly have got two hill forts that are 3.5 to 4 kilometres apart, similar distance, and they're important and significant. Maiden Castle or Oswestry, why is it that, and we've got Dunelm as well, I mean, the worst thing is this, right? This is the worst thing. This is a really, really beautiful area with that hill fort as it is. There's a lot of hill forts that are in just flat area around them. Particularly in Ireland, there's a lot of ring forts that are on flattish areas. And this has got such an outstanding position that if you had 2 hill forts, and if you look at those old photos I've got of this, it's not that long ago since they started building all around it. Why have they kept away from Oswestry and Maiden Castle? Well, not built on it, yet they built all up and around this, and now even on top of it. And it was, the worst thing is, it's to do with when Varley was excavating or finishing, and he should have known, when he's excavating Castle Hill, isn't it clearly obvious, right, that there's another site near it? And in fact 3 sites next to the Pennine Ridge. Why wouldn't you protect it? And this is the worst thing, right? If you want to say, all right, then we'll acknowledge that, you know, there's something about it, right? Even if you did put houses on it to symbolise, you know, normal people getting lifted up in the world, right? Why can't they see anything? Because all those trees that have been around it for a long time block off the view that you can have on there, and you can't even really see the houses. I mean, people who live in the houses, I can't even see through the trees. I tried to see through the trees, and you can't even see through the trees when I went up there and walked around it and through the forest walk. And the thing is, if you sort of try and see through the trees a little bit, at least like extremely limited, you can tell that from around it itself is in a really nice area where it's surrounded on all sides by nice slopes. And it looks beautiful. It's actually surrounded by beautiful slopes that could have been absolutely amazing. And even if they put houses on there, I mean, now it's not that good to look at because it's just looking at slopes of houses. But at least on this Beaumont side, where the Beaumont Arms side is, on this side, there's some there. But you've lost all of that as well. So to me, either way you look at it, I don't think you are doing a favour for the people who've bought houses on there. It's just ridiculous. I think it's totally ridiculous. I think something needs to be done about it, and I think there are ulterior motives. And this is the thing, right? Why is it that up at Hopton at the Freemasons' Arms it converted into flats and a beautiful conservatory up down, and instead of putting a nice viewpoint for Castle Hill up there, at least to recognise Castle Hill with a nice view from further away, they didn't do anything to the lay-by. One guy got a massive house there for Football Manager or whatever with gargoyles on it. You can't turn around or stop where those flats are. They didn't even make the view out of the flats really nice for the people who live in the flats. It's like it's been shut down. And then with all the cafe being built on it, it's slowly going to creep up to be like that on top of it, because that's the way they're going with it. So I think the case for it is that there's something, and the fact of the Brigantes and the fact that of all the places in the country, right, what happened to the Romans is they went to Essex, they went to Colchester, they got the leader hostage of, this is what we're told by the report, so it's all we can go on, right? And then they took him prisoner up here because this was the main area, the middle of the country, right? Brigantes tribe, wherever you want to reckon they said they went in the Brigantes area, they said it was the Brigantes area. They're trying to say it was further up North Yorkshire, but... And then, so this is where they came when they went to negotiating to take over the whole island with the Roman army. So if that ain't significant, then I don't know what is. And then we've got we've got De Lacy's. We don't even know what shape and form it was before De Lacy got fortifications following 1066 and then massacred the top of it up. So to me, you can't ignore there's something unusual going on or something not quite right going on with how it's been treated, because why is it, you know, with Maiden Castle, Old Oswestry, Huffington White Horse, it's a completely totally different attitude. There's something happening, and why did out of all the hill forts, did the war start when they were excavating, you know, doing excavation in Maiden Castle? No. Why here? something kicked off, and then that's when we get the other site, which would 3 hill forts within 3 kilometres of each other is nothing to be ignored. In fact, it's highly significant with the Pennine Ridge next to it, and the views of it, which are really, really majestic in that. So I actually think that it's actually really, really serious, and I think there's something either wrong with the archaeologists. Either they don't really understand it properly, or they don't really they don't want to understand it. And at the end of the day, what are they looking for anyway? Even if they were excavating it to establish whether it's occupied, you can't even investigate to see if it was ever occupied on top of now. And follow it further to that, look at the Dragon Hill. The Dragon Hill's quite a smallish mound at Uffington. They got Uffington Camp and Dragon Hill. I mean, you know, there's not much left to investigate to find out whether that little hill was occupied, because it's only a smallish mound, but it's definitely clearly obvious it had something to do with Uffington Camp and Wayland Smithy and the White Horse, because it's right next to them and part of the site. And these are part of the site. Shanktonbury Ring is part of Sisbury Ring, even though it's 3 kilometres away. They're 2 collaborating hill forts. So there's something. I just think that they've got it in for this area, and unfortunately, the worst thing is they've got us arguing over it here, because the only signatures I've got to protect it are the ones that I've got from the rest of the country and all specialist interest people. We can't even get everyone to agree here, because a third of the people are annoyed because the pub got pulled down that they like going drinking in. Then the other half of them are all royalist imperialists worshipping the Jubilee Tower, and then the other third like think that this area should be conserved for nature and beauty. You know, whether or not you support the prehistoric aspects of it or not, at least the other third think that there shouldn't be any building on there at all, and we should keep it in tune with trying to keep it beautiful countryside and nature, which I think it deserves to have a significant amount of nature preserved, particularly with the Home Firth side as well. So I think that there's something seriously. There is something. You can't say that there's not something significant been going on with it. There's no way this is just a pile of earth when it's that specific distance from Castle Hill and the actual dimensions of it, and it's flat on top, and it was there before there was any houses, and it's been protected with trees for a long time. And this is the thing out of everything, right? The thing out of everything is this, right? When you have, when you go into Google Maps and you get this hill, and you align it with the certain direction, right? And then just keep zoomed in to the same distance. And then when you go to Old Oswestry Hill Fort, right? When you go to Old Oswestry Hill Fort and you look at the shape of it on the exact same side and in the exact same direction, you've got a shape point pinnacle bit, and they're pointing the exact same way and they're the exact same shape. Now this is smaller than Oswestry, but it could have had sides to it. It could have had similar fortifications around it to Old Oswestry that might have been vandalised and rubbished by anyone, so to try and make it look like it wasn't a hill fort, although it doesn't even have to have fortifications to class as a hill fort, like a hill that's occupied on top of it. The fact that it's level on top should signify that. And there was no other activities around here at that time prior. It's just at the distance, 3.5 kilometres, and then the Sisbury Ring and Shanktonbury Ring, and it's so close to the river. And I think that they were cooperating together, and other people have said it before.
if it's something else, if it's something else and not that, right, then why would the university student who's doing a graduate dissertation do enough study himself to establish that he believes the same as me? And that was for a university degree, graduate degree, so, you know. Not that long ago, it wasn't even built on. So, and the thing is, there are those other trees up behind it that we don't even know what's there, which from the air kind of try to mimic it and make it look like it's just normal, because there's that other site there, which, you know. So I'm just going to go take a look at this Flowing House road site now. So when the area wasn't as built up, it was actually quite obvious, that mound and the shape of it, particularly the exact side and the exact direction of the compass to Old corner. Even though it's a little bit smaller generally, it could have been bigger though, but we don't exactly know what happened. It could have been dug out, the hill fort, to make it look like just a mound. We don't know for sure, and I don't think archaeologists can tell now. Particularly when they've got houses built on it. But one thing's for sure, from the air you should be able to see it and tell what it is. But because they've put these other trees here in Armonbury, right, there's this clump of woods here, and they've made, why would you have these woods here? Why wouldn't, if you had that hill mound, which everyone knew it was a mound, right, why wouldn't you leave it to play on as a field for a natural area to walk to for everyone in this whole area, right, which is still not that far away? Why wouldn't you save that? Why would you? And there's that area there as well, there's a woodland area there where they walk up. So why would you, when you're building houses all around here, why would you leave trees here, right, near it, in the same size, and then from the air it distracts from it and kind of looks like, oh, it's just a clump of trees there and a clump of trees there. You can't really see it's a mound. I think that's suspicious, and there's a motivation and reason behind that, is to disguise it, particularly them building houses on it. So I'm gonna see what this other woodland actually is. It's actually a nice little bit of Armonbury that don't go to that often here. There's a little row of cottages there, this little bit here. Look at this, and this is even weirder. When we get to Flowing House, where it is, and I've had a look, I can probably walk up there actually. But look at this, there's some stairs that just stop and go to there. And then you've got to kind of go to the side, which is not the proper way. So I've got a feeling this is going to be like the bit of land over at the side, but just overgrown. And there aren't actually any proper footpath signs. Everybody's been walking up there, you see, look, just straight up the soil. I mean, it could have been anything here in prehistory. But looking at the landscape at the other side, where there was like an old tree that's been uprooted, it says motorcycling strictly prohibited. So it sort of just goes up there. And this is sort of it's a bit of a mound here, but I don't think that it's anything. It's on a, so that's just woods that sort of slope down that way. You see, they built all these houses here. Why wouldn't you build houses on this bit as well, right? Now, if you were going to select, right, we've got this Armonbury and we need to select somewhere for greenery to go for walks. So why wouldn't you have that mound over there what had fields on top of it. And it just happens to be the same distance as Sisbury Ring from Shanktonbury Ring, the same distance from Castle Hill, and very, very close to the river if you go the route by the ICI. It just seems very, very, very odd, because you could have put houses on here, and it's not that far away. Oh, there we are. You can't even really see it from here. You see, even somewhere to go look at it, it's like they've obstructed all the viewing points of it, like they've done with Castle Hill up at Freemasons. And if you're just getting on with your normal life and you're not interested and you're not bothered, it just falls away into forgottenness. But when you're actually interested in it, and you're very interested in Maiden Castle, very interested in Sisbury Ring, very interested in Uffington North, very interested in Stonehenge, very interested in West Kennet and Silbury Hill, very interested in all the sites like Abbot Crowhurst and all the stones line up through Europe, and very, very interested in hill forts, then it's just too big to be ignored. Look, you can see it now through the trees a little bit. But the thing is this, like I said earlier on in the other recordings, right, which is, if you wanted to symbolically put people on it, you know, for prestige, and say, okay, just all the, you know, the working class people can go on this top of this hill, right? Why wouldn't you give them houses with a nice view of the whole surrounding area? But they haven't, because there's all those trees around the top of it, and you can't actually see the view, when it actually was an absolutely amazing view with nice sloping banks facing it all the way around in a nice little basin. Not unlike Castle Hill is on the tops, but Castle Hill's kind of higher up in a sort of a raised basin. This is in a low basin, kind of tucked away. And it's just the shape of it, the shape of that other side. I'll put the image on. You look at Oswestry, right, and look at the shape of the top left-hand side of it, right, when you're looking at it on that map. I didn't change the zoom. I didn't change the direction that I was. I was at here, right? I looked at ours, this hill here, right? And I just scrolled without changing direction or zoom at all. I scrolled all the way to Oswestry, and I found it quite easily. It's not hard to do if you don't know where you're going on Google Maps at that zoom, because it's not zoomed out that far. I scrolled over the moors, crossed Macclesfield, and recognised one or two villages, and then I ended up getting to Wrexham. And then as soon as I got to Wrexham, I'm like, oh right, okay, we're A49, and I just followed the A49 down to Oswestry, right? And when you look at it, it's exactly the same shape, the top corner. Now, before you had Google Maps, before you had all these other technologies, right, you wouldn't think of destroy it. You see, Howard Crowhurst has proved that these places have absolutely amazing precision alignment over great lengths of distance, particularly even the stones along West Kennet, along the front entrance of West Kennet, align up with places, Marlborough Hill, Silbury Hill, the whole lot, and all Carnac and everything. It's all aligned all the way up to Castlereagh and Rudstone and everything. Watch the Megalithomania Howard Crowhurst interviews. I think there's about 2 recent videos as from when I'm making this. And if you watch the Dr. Gail Higginbottom, right, because the shape of that and the pointing of it, look at it, and Oswestry, when it's exactly pointing in the same direction, it's absolutely aligned just right in the shape. So, you know, I think that it could have had some sort of shaping to it, which would have said, oh yeah, it's hill fort rather than just a mound, and it might have been dug out, because it would have been a lot easier for them to do that than to level the whole thing, because it was that big that you can't really, it'd be a hard job levelling Old Oswestry anyway, because it's just too big, and Maiden Castle. Now, these sites, the Shanktonbury Ring one's not that big, Maiden Castle's a lot bigger, but the thing with this and Castle Hill and Dunelm is, they're about the same size. They're all approximately the sort of same size, and there's 3 sites. Now, you don't necessarily have to have the biggest hill fort like Maiden Castle, or Sisbury Ring is actually not that much different size from Maiden Castle, but it's a number of them in a local area when we already knew this area was significant anyway. And I think that you know, if there's some other explanation for that to do with you know, slack piling or whatever, what I'm pretty sure that university student who did the graduate, I read his paper, he's looked at old maps and he's researched the history of this area, and you know, rivers have been moved, certain things. There was a little bit of quarrying at one side, but he still proposed that it was occupied and flat on the top, and someone has seen a map saying Warriors Burial for a name. So a university graduate on a dissertation has come to the same conclusion as me. So if any archaeologists want to argue with it, I'll say, well, how can you do archaeology on it when you've banged houses on it? And how can you even do archaeology if the sides might have been, you know, dug out? It's just the distance from Castle Hill as well. And back in those old photos, when this area wasn't even as populated, why would you go on to that with houses when you've got this? Because to be honest, the amount of houses on there could have fit in here, and then this little bit of land here wouldn't need, that could be an area to go play and walk on, natural, because it's got woods all around the edge of it anyway, and then a flat area on the top. Whereas this hasn't even really got a flat area in the top, and the woods around it, you can't even walk through them properly because they're all kind of like sketchy. And then you've got that other place next to the garage on there, which is behind it, where there was an old tree that got struck by lightning and then eventually it's fallen down. There's another little bit of land for all these people here can get to there quite easily, walk down the road. So you wouldn't need to have this, except when you're looking at it from far away or the air and you're looking for something that stands out, this not only distracts you from it, and also kind of makes it look a raised bit of trees, and that's just a raised bit of trees, so it kind of, it's almost like a decoy or disguise. It just seems to me that is the case. Because I think this bit here is like the bit further on by the petrol station. So I'm coming to see what's here now. It definitely is sort of just a little bit of a hillside. Whoa, it's quite slippery now. It is just a bit of a hillside they've left trees on. So why would you go and build on there when it's got woodland around the edge, what you can go for a beautiful woodland walk in? No need to come here in this woodland walk. And the flat top, which have had nice views for people to have picnics on as well. It doesn't make sense to me. It seems, I think there's some sort of motive behind it, and if I'm wrong, then fair enough, but I'm allowed to make that assumption, and I don't think that it should be too controversial really, because I think it's important. It's important enough if a university graduate has done an entire paper on Castle Hill and included that in it as well, and come to similar conclusions. And why is it very mysterious that Varley starts excavating it? I mean, it wasn't that long when Varley started excavating it, since the very early IRA issues. It was only about 20 years. It was only 20 years after the IRA were kicking off and Varley started excavating here. Then we've all got that Mountbatten business coming over and Battenberg cakes, and then we've got the Victoria Tower gets plonked on, and then there's a war breaks out, and then Varley continues into the early 70s, and then those houses appear at another site that Varley doesn't seem to care to cover, although some people have said that he's written a bit about it. And actually, I think that student might have mentioned it, so Varley might have actually noted some significance to it. But J.J.R. Tolkien, in that Hague book on the Yorkshire dialect, which we've got hold of, Tolkien puts significant importance on the area and the sites, because he, when he was young, he was growing up around Uffington, Whitehorse and Wayland Smithy anyway. So it's more, this is more just of a embankment like the rest of it likely was. Like over there, you've got all that. There's a walk up there and people can go play up there and walk in the woods up there. So why would you need this one? And why would you go build on something that's potentially and highly likely to be an ancient site, given the distance and proximity from Castle Hill matches up with Shanktonbury Ring, and the shape of the site, the shape of it is aligned exactly the same pointing. The point of it is aligned exactly the same as Oswestry, which is a quite prominent and significant hill fort that is not that far away as the crow flies on a national basis. It's the Midlands, it's the West Midlands, and we're right in the middle of the country, but that's the West Midlands. It just, if you want to argue against it, then that's fair enough, but I just think that it's, you see they've got a list bit as well, but I still just think that looks more like a hillside. It's literally like the other side across there, but if it just had trees growing on it. So I think there's something going on with 3 sites, with the Dunelm, Castle Hill in here, just like Shanktonbury Ring and Sisbury Ring, and the river as well, because that's what happens in Ireland. When you get to Ireland, and when you go to, you know, Newgrange and Knowth, you've got 2 sites, Newgrange and Knowth, right, which aren't that far from each other, quite close, and they're both next to a river which is not at the coast, but it goes to the coast. And really, that's what this is here. We've got 2 or 3 mounds, all within close proximity of each other, that head to the ocean. So, in a way, and the word Drogheda in Irish is the bridge over the ford, you know, and these are meant to be the brigantes, which is bridge or mast or beam going out. And Drogheda is a bridge over a ford. So, and that, you know, you could, there's that over there to go and play on. We're not short of land, and then the building houses up in the countryside, around here, in places that people are objecting to. I don't know why they've let them build on that mound at all. It's ridiculous. So I think that is just the hillside that's got trees in it. And if you look from the air, it definitely is a bit of a distraction from the point. I wanted to go look at it anyway and suss it out and see what it was like there. They've called that there Quarry Hill. They've called it Quarry Hill to try and make out that, oh, if you're ever wondering what that is, it's to do with quarrying. Yet it can't be, according to university graduates' work. Mountfield. And there's another part to this as well. Apparently, at one of the Jubilee events in Huddersfield, they were giving out coins, shillings to everyone. They were giving out money to the public to get on the good side and support, and then giving out like certain ornaments and things like that, royal ornaments. And some people say no, they went to get one, but they've run out, they didn't have any left, so they can't have had that many. But they got the kudos for it. They got the. It's like winning your area over. It's like erasing your area's history and heritage and the truth, and then planting theirs on it, and then getting everyone to venerate it, which is kind of diabolical, really. Why not celebrate the area's history? Because then you sort of like bigging up the conquered and dominated peoples who were before. And then what they do is they just go celebrate the other areas, like down south. But I didn't see Caesar marching to Maiden Castle or Oswestry with King Cole from Colchester. They came straight up to West Yorkshire. So so there's got to be something in that. You see that ridge there has always been of interest because of like an old tree that was on there that had been struck by lightning just in the middle, and people used to, it's like an open bit of kind of meadow on there, so it definitely used to distract people actually from the other mound. And actually, to be honest, in the bottom of here now, in the bottom of this field here, where a lot of water comes into, you actually get a lot of long grass growing in there actually, a lot of mullein grasses. So that tree was kind of like just a feature, an odd, peculiar, strange feature that kind of attracted people's attention to think about on a hillside. And then from the air, you've got that other forest, other woodland, which kind of was a bit of a decoy, really.